People who met on Reddit, slid into the DMs, and actually formed a romantic relationship IRL. What's your story? Are you still together? Met a guy on Reddit when I moved back to my college town and needed help getting my motorcycle out of a rental van. I posted in the local subreddit asking for help and this guy replied that he was buying a motorcycle ramp that day and he could drop by after. He dropped by with a friend he brought along to help. Turned out that friend was a mutual friend of mine also. After they got the motorcycle out, the three of us went out for drinks, hung out in Old Town, and eventually got pizza at a place that was open really late. Reddit guy dropped me off at home around 4 AM. I kissed him, and we kinda became inseparable. 3 months later we moved in together. 9 months after that we were married, and less than a month ago we had our first baby. Meeting him was one of the best things, if not the best thing, to ever happen to me. That's awesome. Now you can start a motorcycle gang. She made a weird funny comment that also made it apparent we lived in the same city. We chatted for a couple weeks, went on one date, tortoise and bowling at a historic 1920s bowling alley. She was cool but the chemistry we appeared to have online wasn't really there in person. Afterwards she let me know she decided to try dating women instead. Most Reddit comment ever. I met my first BF here on AskReddit. Started off as random conversation. Then we met up, about a 4-hour drive for both of us, and it went from there. Eventually, he moved to me, but then we broke up. He still lives near me and I still talk to him daily. I just couldn't live with him. She asked for an audio message for her birthday on our annual audio and I replied. We kept talking and I conned her into moving down here. Been together 3 years. Happiest I've ever been. You've inspired hundreds of lonely redditors to harass Gonuwild posters. Met him on my city's R4R board. He was just coming out of self-imposed dating exile since he had been unemployed for a while. I hadn't been in a serious relationship for some time. Something about his post caught my eye, though I couldn't tell you what exactly. We messaged back and forth for a few days. I was using my alt account for safety, neither of us thinking it was likely to go anywhere, but we hit it off and had our first date that weekend. He pre-inquired about my favorite flavor of breath mint, which I thought was adorable. It turned out I lived about 5 minutes walk from where he worked and had actually walked past his office in a public building. 2 days before we met, we dated for about a year, both really happy, but then he got transferred to another part of the country for work. I drove out with him to help him get set up, and then we flew back so he could wrap up at his previous work location for a few days. Seeing him walk out my door the last day really sucked, because he didn't know if he wanted me to follow him for good, and I wasn't crazy about where he was moving to. Eventually, after a lot of Netflix Discord dates, he realized he was pretty unhappy without me and asked me to move with him. Selling my house and leaving a job and all my friends behind was really scary, but I did it. We bought a house together in the new city and I switched careers. 3 years later, we're still very happy together, but I don't like it here. So we are in the process of getting ready to move back to my old side of the country later this year. He proposed a few weeks ago, and we're getting married in a tiny ceremony this summer, somewhere his family has had a summer home for years. I have a lot of doubts about the future, but not about him. He is sweet and supportive and smart and mischievous in equal measures, and I'm glad every day that he posted that ad. I have a lot of doubts about the future, but not about him. Frick, that's beautiful. Met my husband online. We talked for a few days, found out we lived 30 minutes away from each other. Met one night and we've been together for 10 years. Married 7 years and we have a perfect little boy who turns 1 this weekend. So, dang, cutie. My husband and I met on our Star Trek. We started out as friends and formed a really strong bond and will be married 3 years in June. We usually give each other Trek related gifts for anniversaries, haha. He even proposed to me using a transporter toy from the 90s. Yeah, we are nerds. Username checks out. Text wall incoming. She and I met through Reddit because we were both in pretty bad shape and just needed somebody to talk to. We messaged for a bit and found out that we had a lot in common. We would message each other every day pretty much all day for maybe the first week. One of our shared interests was video games. So after that first week, we started playing games together and talking on Discord. We would talk on Discord every day whenever we were both free and stay up super late just learning about each other and telling each other stories from our childhood. She's from Texas and I'm from California, so our time difference is 2 hours. She told me her schedule for that semester of college and I would make sure to wake up early enough to message her at least for a little bit before class. Fast forward about a month and we're both pretty flirty with each other when we're talking. I'm not sure if we were doing it on purpose or if we were even aware of it at the time. I had learned that she had a boyfriend but she was super unhappy with their relationship, which was why she needed to talk to somebody in the first place. I also learned that he had cheated on her very early on and that she took him back because she was scared he'd kill himself if she didn't. So one night while we were done playing games and just hanging out and talking on Discord, I just asked her point blank if her relationship with her ex was going anywhere. She said that she didn't think so. So I asked if she thought that the two of us had a chance. We've been together for just over a year now. She's graduated college and has a job, and even though she has to be up at 6:30 CST every morning for work, I still set an alarm for 4:30 AM PST so I can be awake, at least for a few minutes, to talk to her and tell her to have a good day. I've been over there to visit her every month since July last year, and once she's been at her job for 6 months, she can start taking vacation time and visit me. To this day, it's almost surreal to think that I met the girl that I'm certain I want to be a part of my life until I die on Reddit. It's definitely an unconventional way to meet, but I wouldn't change a single detail. This is the best comment I saw all day. I really hope you two stay together for as long as possible. Best wishes. XOXO. Met my boyfriend in a kick group in 2017. We were attached to other partners at the time but would joke and tease each other when we were around at the same time. We both split with our partners around the same time. Ended up messaging him so I could keep up with the happy banter. Flirting ensued and we both clicked. I would talk to him for hours upon hours between phone conversations, video chatting, and messaging back and forth. We made plans of taking a mini vacation together to meet and see if he wanted to make the move from California to Ohio. I was willing to move there but he wanted out of Cali. After thinking it over, I told him that if he was serious he should just move here. It didn't matter if our actual chemistry in person wasn't there. I knew that we could cohabitate well. He moved in March of 2018 and I had a fairy tale meeting. Instant chemistry. The attraction was there for both of us and we had 7 months of total bliss. Unfortunately, I didn't get a lifetime of happiness as he was killed in a trucking accident, but I still believe in love. It's been a little over a year and he taught me what I deserve and how I should be treated in a relationship, and I will be forever thankful for that. Thought this was going to be a happy ending, but that's just so sad. So sorry for your loss. Hope you find love again. I met my husband on Tumblr. He answered some anonymous question about how tall he was and I replied to it, and then we never stopped talking. He talked me through getting out of an abusive marriage and I helped him out of a dark place. I drove out to meet him 2 months later. We visited monthly for the first year and then he moved here and we got married and we have kids and pets and everything. I met my girlfriend 1 year ago in one of the mental health subreddits. It started with some casual talk with private messages. Then we moved to Discord to chat more about life and everything. Then went on to gaming and sharing hobbies. Over the weeks it was obvious we had great chemistry and could relate on most things. So we decided to give it a try as LDR. 6 months later I went around the world to meet her in reality and spent 2.5 months with her family. It went perfectly well and I had an awesome time. She was due to come to my country soon but we had to cancel because of coronavirus. So we'll see later in the year, then we can have a better overview of which country to settle into. So yeah, perfect love story started with Reddit, just with over 16,000 kilometers between us as we're on opposite sides of the world. We met in our dead bedrooms while we were in separate marriages. For almost 2 years we helped each other try to save our very long relationships with our spouses. We would email each all day long and just talk smack. I didn't even know where he lived. I just knew he was a good guy. He became my hidden best friend. Then my husband got a temporary job for 2 weeks in another state. I wrote him I'd be out of town in Oregon for it. He replied, where? I replied, with the town. He replied, I live there. So we met. My husband, me, his wife, and he all went out to dinner several nights over those 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun. My husband decided to take the gig in Oregon on a permanent basis and we decided to move. My job transfer came early and I left a packed house to start while my husband waited for the movers. 3 weeks later he called me up, told me he fell in love with another woman, and was leaving me. I was abandoned in Oregon. He actually got her pregnant, I would later learn. My Reddit friend was the only person I knew. Through him, I met an entire social group and started to date while waiting for my divorce. I was having a lot of financial issues and was desperately looking for a roommate. Still, my post-divorce life was so sweet. Reddit guy takes me out to lunch and tells me his marriage is over. I guess watching me go through it made it real and he realized he needed out. The dead bedroom was killing him. He was nearly suicidal. He had looked at apartments but was waffling on leaving. I was desperate, running out of money. I offered him a room in my 2-bedroom rental. He moved in. By the time my divorce was finalized, we were a couple. Everything I learned about him in 2 years of email turned out true. He was an amazing man. He inspired me. We shared heartache and divorce and so many emotional things. We bonded so deeply. That was almost 6 years ago. Today we live on the other side of the country. We have a house by the beach. We have a family of 1 big Yuffie and 2 cats. We have yet to exit our honeymoon phase. And the sex? Amazing and prolific. I have thanked our dead bedrooms for just being there, because without Reddit and that community I'd still be miserable. It's amazing how life turns out. Wow, this is like a movie plot waiting to happen. Met my current boyfriend on here. I made a post looking for friends. He'd met me saying we were now the absolute best of friends. I chatted with him for a night, then was kind of cold for the rest of the week as I was going through some stuff and his energy threw me off. Somehow, the dude steamrolled through my completely uninterested one-word responses and managed to win my favor in time for Valentine's Day. So yeah, now we're dating and it's pretty cool. He is still just as oblivious as before, but it's okay because I am too. Took us a full day of skirting around it to confess we liked each other. Just on the phone, awkwardly badgering it for like hours. Met on a sub looking for language exchange partners. He's European and I'm Asian. We're cross-continent LOL. Got super flirty talking 1 month in, and just kept it at that level until we met after around 4 months, and then things really started from then. In the soon to be 1 year that we've known each other, we've met twice in places that are not our countries. It's tough having a relationship LDR right from the start. I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. It sucks. And even now, the future is very uncertain. But both of us weren't expecting anything remotely like a romantic relationship. I can only say that life is very unpredictable but thus interesting. I love him and this entire process has been rather amazing as well. But I'm rather fearful about the future. I sincerely hope I'll be able to cherish and remember this for what it has been if things don't end well. Not on Reddit. I met my husband on LiveJournal back in 2006. I moved to his country in 2007. We're still happily together. I met my wife on the internet before it was cool. We met in an MMO, but we were in 2 different countries. We ended up meeting for a week and then 2 months later she moved across the world to live with me. We lived there for a year and then moved to the States to be closer to her family. Married 3 months later. 14 years later we are still very happily married. I know, not a Reddit story, but it wasn't invented back then. Not Reddit, but another platform by the name of Amino. We met during the summer when I joined a chat in a sub-community. We quickly became friends and found out we had a lot of common interests. Things such as video games, music, and heck even books. In July we started talking a lot more in our DMs and we got even closer. Then in September something happened to her that affected her negatively. However, despite her state I managed to cheer her up and then we were officially best friends. Then in September, due to some family issues, I thought I was going to have to leave Amino for a while, meaning I couldn't talk to her. So naturally we said our goodbyes to each other, and I said something I wanted to get off my chest for a while. That being I love you. To my amazement, she said it back. Then only a day later, I came back because my mom was at work and I just saw her, distressed when I joined the chat, like it was hard for her to think I was gone and her fears of me not coming back. Then what happened after was that we confessed our love for each other, and as it turned out, we both had crushes on each other. From that day forward we have been dating, and if I could change anything I wouldn't. I posted a stupid hypothetical in R4R and she was the only one who responded the opposite of how I would have. So I'd met her and asked why. We instantly hit it off, talking more or less non-stop. Very quickly learned that on the surface we have very little in common, but if you look deeper we are each different parts of Danny DeVito's soul. It's by far the strongest and most profound connection I've ever made with another person. I can be myself and feel completely at ease with her. Even our hobbies being different has been a good thing. We both love to learn and it's given us so many new things to follow down a rabbit hole. She is incredibly intelligent and insightful while I'm more practical and hands-on. We balance each other. And plus she's the most fun person I've ever hung out with. We're both incredibly unconventional people and feed off each other. One of our first dates involved a me-head Uber driver, tripping on acid, my drunk grandparents and feminist pep talks to strippers. It was the best date I've ever had. You melted old people. Oh crap, that's me. He messaged me from a gay sub after he said he went through my post history and realized we were in the same town. At first he said he just wanted friends and I agreed to meet him at a local LGBT club event. After meeting there we met up for coffee afterwards and we both expressed interest and started going out and hooking up. After about 2 weeks he said he wasn't ready for a relationship but he was still okay being friends. I stopped talking to him after that because somehow I caught feelings after being with him for only such a short amount of time. Honestly I'm still sad about it but I hope I can feel that way about someone else cause I never really felt like that before. Not really Reddit but on Discord, though we both use Reddit so I hope it still counts. We met on a P server and he posted a video of his dong so I slid in the DMs and complimented him. It was something like, I loved your video and your dong and how it emitted and how you emitted. Consider me a fan and hope to see more, maybe not quite that bad. It was a passive compliment because I didn't think he would respond. But he did and we started talking. We were 8,000 plus miles apart but we kept talking over the course of a year and a half before we finally met in person. And I've been living with him for a year now. Yeah, unconventional love stories that you can never fully share with family. IDK how they exactly met, but my brother met his girlfriend on Reddit like 5-6 years ago. Coincidentally they lived 1.5 hours away from each other and now they have an apartment together and a small cute doggo as well. She posted a picture and I called her cute. We chatted some, then went to DMing, which escalated to Discord and phone calls. We had a stupid amount in common, so we never ran out of things to talk about. I lived in the Midwest, while she lived on the West Coast. We planned a meetup, took a few days off, rented an Airbnb, and spent 5 days together. Two things became very apparent. We loved each other, but it wasn't going to work romantically. We broke up a few months after, but stayed in contact. Eventually I moved out of the Midwest and she offered me a place to stay. We shared an apartment for over a year, and are still best friends to this day. Had a bad butt girl respond to one of my posts. Talked for a month, met, hooked up, got married a year and a half later and are still together after 4 years. 10/10. Would highly recommend using Reddit to find a GF wife. Won't do it again though because I found a keeper. I slid into my current GF's DMs almost 3 years ago. Nothing really weird as a result besides us having to explain to our older family members how we met. Yes, we are still together and without her I wouldn't be in the position I am today and remind myself to thank her for it. Yep, sub of a mutual hobby. Didn't intend for it to be a romantic meetup. Just happened. I cried over a basketball game when we first met. He thought I was charming. Married in Reddit's wet dream of a wedding. As in, spent more than $100 and used the money for something better. Still married. I think he's still okay with me. Have a cat. 9/10. Oh my god. I've been waiting for a post like this. I'll try to keep it short for once. My dog and I made the front page of our all or through our AWW. It was one of those calling for attention posts. Women started messaging me directly. From there I developed feelings for two, and unfortunately I chose to meet the wrong one. I was feeling the pain still from a recent divorce, and this person, while wonderful at first, they seemed to fit what I thought that I needed. She told me that I was a good man, and I needed to hear that because up until then, I didn't believe it. Soon after we got engaged and agreed that we wanted a family together, so we started planning for me to move cross country from Utah to Ohio. I was already moving somewhere. Like everything else, time undid the relationship. Depression is real, and she knew the wave was coming. Our communication became shorter and she became angrier with me. The pressure of the impending move seemed hard on her. I was looking for a fresh start. Well, things fell apart, and instead of moving to Columbus, Ohio, I reset course for Seattle, Washington. I lost a ton of money on the wedding that we never had and didn't quite get the same level of respect that I expected and provided to her. At last I heard, someone told me that she sold the engagement ring online for a massive discount. I didn't expect to have it back, but she could have gotten more for it. It's fine. I just wished she would have valued it higher. Oh well. Now I live in Seattle with my pup. We made the front page of our Seattle too when we moved and have made a new life here. This is where this story ends. I am not remarried, and that is fine. I am smack in the middle of this COVID-19 scare and possibly sick, and I still will never regret not moving to Ohio for love. I've accepted that love is conditional and that I rather die in Seattle than live another day in Ohio. My new girlfriend happens to be from Cleveland. She wants me to visit her fam with her. I am not ready. And along the way I've accepted that when you meet people online that they will always demonstrate the best versions of themselves. And that being at the front page of our all, that it was a fluke and that I'll never experience that feeling again. So, at least now I've learned to truly love myself and my pup. Because we are all we have. If you've read this, thank you for your time. This is the end of an experience that started on the 11th of October 2018 when I needed a friend, and our all replied, "I'm here for llama, just sing, but you're not bad either." Not me personally, but had a friend who connected with someone through a fairly small subreddit, some show that hadn't become popular yet. I don't remember the name. They mostly connected because they lived close to one another, and after some chatting they met up IRL for a hangout kind of date. She said aside from the show they had nothing really in common, so they kind of stopped talking as they got bored. Not Reddit but Imgur. We met November 2011. In July of 2016, I moved from California to Tennessee to be with him. We are still together and incredibly happy. This will for sure get buried, but this question was made for me. 7 years ago I had just gone through a painful breakup and decided to post some risque images on Gone Wild as a self-esteem boost. I got a lot of dong pics in response, but a few thoughtful or funny messages. I carried on a few conversations for a while, but they all fizzled out except for one. I kept private messaging that person for a couple of months on Reddit. Then we decided we would give instant messaging a try on Skype. That worked out so well that after a couple weeks, we tried voice chatting. After a month or so of 4+ hour nightly chats, and after I had fallen in love with him, and after exchanging pictures of our faces, we made a plan to meet. He was located about 6.5 hours south of me, so we made a plan for me to drive down there and spend the weekend with him. We absolutely hit it off. Started dating long distance. I drove down every other weekend to see him for 2 years, moved in with him once I graduated, and now we have been married for 3 years. TLDR, I married my white knight and we are very happy. This will probably get buried because I'm late to the party, but here goes. I was casually browsing the Snapchat subreddit looking for someone fun to have some conversations with. Went through a handful of people where conversations just died out after a day or so, sort of as expected. Never once considered it for anything more than finding someone interesting to just hold a conversation with. I messaged her, and when we got to talking I could tell she was different immediately. She seemed a lot more engaged and down to earth than the other people that had dwindled. Despite the fact that she was literally inundated with messages from one single post, she chose to speak to me for whatever reason. We got to talking about our interests, hobbies, and eventually ideal nights out, days in, and qualities in a person. etc. All of the above just started lining up between the two of us, and as of that same day we started spending hours glued to our phones talking and cackling deep into the night. The conversations were just natural and laid back. We both felt comfortable sharing because there was no underlying pressure to impress each other, as we didn't expect anything more than a fleeting friendship to grow from it. We eventually started FaceTiming on a regular basis, for hours on end, learning more about each other and just having a good time. She lives 5,000 kilometers away, so we always mess with each other about buying that plane ticket and getting it over with. She FaceTimed me one night and showed me the non-refundable plane ticket had been purchased a week or two after we had met, and I banked on it not being some sort of elaborate, edited screenshot. The trip was set to take place around a month later, giving me ample time to prepare and get all my nervous farts out in advance. The days leading up to her flying out were exciting, and the day of couldn't have gone better. I had spent the better part of the month prepping plans and outings for when she arrived, and it all went off without a hitch. Our chemistry in person was as electric as any other platform we'd been chatting on for the month before. Now here we are exactly 4 months later, 2 trips deep together, planning our third with a permanent 5,000 kilometers move in the works for the near future. Never clicked so well with a person before, and it really feels great. Thanks Reddit. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.